definitely is finally here. Now, I don't have a graphic for it yet, but I want to continue this as a series because I think this is an interesting point of conversation. So, I wanted to do my own little what if category, right? And I didn't mention what it was about earlier, but I will go into more detail now. This particular what if, we'll say it's almost like Marvel Comics, right? So this is like issue one of my what ifs, issue one, and what this is what I wanted to talk about here was Jeff Jarrett, who has his own podcast, was asked the question considering Abyss. Do you remember Abyss in TNA?
Yep.
One of my favorite big men of all time. Got a chance to meet him, got a chance to work with him. He's a fucking teddy bear, but at the same time, he is serious about this fucking business. And I always respected him. I always had love for him. He didn't want to hug my wife because he was sweating, because it was right after a match, but she was like, I don't give a fuck. Get in here and give me some of that flavor right here. And so he's just a really cool dude. And so I want to read something that he said, an excerpt here from the podcast, to get more of an idea of what we're talking about. So the what if scenario for me is, what if Abyss hadn't stayed in TNA and actually took his talents to the WWE, and we're talking about during the height of Abyss, when he was like at his absolute best here. So the podcast is called My World Podcast. Jeff Jarrett is obviously one of the hosts there. He has a co-host that helps him out. I don't have the gentleman's name in front of me. But he was asked, was there any concern in 2004 that Abyss would leave TNA for WWE? For those of you who don't know, TNA itself started in about 2002, and Jeff had a lot of unknown talent on the shows in the beginning of TNA. A couple of, Shamrock was there, R-Truth, Ron Killings, which is his real name, which he used in TNA. There were a few people that, faces that people knew, but for the most part, a lot of indie talent, a lot of foreign talent. Abyss was one of those standouts that came from the indies into the TNA setting and just got over immediately. So, and that's in 2002. So, in 2004, they're asking him, in 2004, was there concern in TNA that Abyss would leave for WWE? Jeff Jarrett said, super concerned. And it goes on. During this time, Bob Ryder was, again, a man who wore a lot of hats, but Bob always had an issue when he tried to serve two masters. The easiest thing was to be good to the boys, but, be an office member. You can't serve both masters ultimately. Bob was very aware of everyone's contract situations, and he let it lapse. His contract lapsed with us actually having, not even really having the ability to sit down and negotiate. So I was very concerned. Irritated as hell at Bob Ryder, but wasn't exactly sure how it was going to play out. And you have to remember that Abyss was a guy that, he was on our first show, but he went to Puerto Rico. And when we came and got on board, he was figured in at the highest level from the day he returned from Puerto Rico. And man, when I tell you, it's hard for me to imagine in a lot of ways the success we had without Abyss. The success we had without Abyss. Because look, if Abyss would have jumped right in right now and gone to WWE, there's no doubt he'd still be exactly where he's at today. For those of you who don't know, he works as an agent backstage with WWE. He puts together a lot of the big man matches because he's a thinking man. He thinks about it. He processes it. He doesn't mind going back to the well. He doesn't mind taking input. He doesn't mind speaking up and saying, no, what about this? He's a team player. Coachable, teachable, smart, thinks it through, knows the difference between a big man match and a little guy match, and different blends and X Division and tag matches and main event matches versus everything you need in a producer/agent/coach, if you will. But during this time, I was frustrated that we were going to lose a guy that we had put so much stock in. I don't remember all the ins and outs. The thing that I remember the most was Bob, I don't believe, was particularly being honest with the ham that was feeding him, and it wasn't the first time. So then he was asked on whether Abyss made a mistake by not going to WWE. So because the opportunity was there. I'm not entirely sure because they're saying that he didn't have a contract. We were nervous he was going to go to WWE. It doesn't really speak to whether or not WWE even had him on their radar. I don't know if they were paying attention to the shows like that. But they asked, was it a mistake by Abyss not to go? He said, and I probably told him something to this effect. That's the way I saw and look. Me and Abyss have laughed laughed a shitload together. We've cried together. He's been with me in some dark moments. I can't say enough. We give him a hard time, but I really can't say enough good things about the guy. But, and I probably said it maybe not as blunt. Maybe I would have. But I would have something to the effect, Abby, you're going to have a run with The Undertaker. You're probably going to have a run with Kane. And if all goes well, or if all goes accordingly well, which I have no reason to believe that you won't do fantastic business with both guys, then you're going to get a run with John Cena. And then it's going to be over because they're not replacing Taker and they're not replacing Kane. Cena is irreplaceable in his mark. They've already got monsters there, and so I think you're going to have a rocket attached to you. I have no idea where you will land after that, and so that's the gamble you're taking. The first 2 years are going to be a smashing success. I don't know where it goes from there. And I, probably said better than that. I probably would have said that to this day, and it would be what type of relationship could he have developed with Vince McMahon during that time frame. It would have only come down specifically to that. So I want to go. This is the what if series here. What if he didn't have the TNA contract to hold him down? He goes to WWE as Jeff predicted that he might. Jeff has a point, right? He's a big guy. Obviously, Vince has a history of taking big guys and feeding them to his monsters just to see if they could sink or swim. Abyss would have been. First of all, Abyss wouldn't have been Abyss. Let's put that out there. Soon as he left TNA, he would have been someone else. No doubt about it. They probably would have done something similar to the Abyss character, but there's no way he would have been Abyss. I've met the guy. I've worked with the guy. Just like Jeff says, he's a sweetheart guy. I think personally Taker would have loved him because he would have sold for him. He would have bumped for him. I'm talking about Abyss. Abyss would have sold for Taker. He would have bumped for Taker. He would have done everything in his power to make sure that Taker would have looked like $1 million. Kane would have been right behind him. Kane is Kane. Kane can make anybody look great. That's just his skill set. And I think him and Abyss would have been absolutely money. Those two were obvious picks. I think Jeff's right on that. If he would have gone to WWE, he would have been fed to those two guys. Programs, maybe, or just a series of matches. But the question would have been what happens after that. Because, in my opinion, some of my favorite Abyss matches were not when Abyss was in the ring with bigger guys. Some of my favorite Abyss matches are when he was with smaller guys. As a matter of fact, I will stand on this till the end of time. Some of Abyss's best matches was against AJ Styles. Now, I know there's a lot of human beings who live on this earth who can say that same exact sentence. But for a man of his size and speed, they had amazing matches. And I think if you would have put Abyss, what's this, 04 he said? So, let me pull that up. Let me do roster 2004 for the WWE. We don't have to go through all these. A-Train, Akio, Al Snow, Batista. This is pre-WWE champion Batista. This is Evolution Batista. Right? I can see those two working out. Big Show, I don't know. Billy Gunn, yeah. Booker T. Dude, Abyss and Booker T. They had good matches when Booker T went to TNA, which was very shortly after this. Lesnar, but then again, it's Lesnar. Lesnar's going to have a good match with everybody. Abyss could have, Abyss and Bubba Ray Dudley. I'm looking at some names here. Charlie Haas, Chris Benoit, Prime Chris Jericho and Abyss. Ugh, we're missing out here. Christian. Then I'm just going through some. I'm going past Joe Burrows. Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero and Abyss. Edge and Abyss. This is 2004. This is, I can see it in the picture. This is full steroid Edge. Jack to the gills Edge. So that would have probably worked. Why is Ernest Miller on this fucking list? Fit Finley, Fit Philly, and fucking Abyss. Goldberg's on here. Hardcore Holly. The Hurricane. Jamie Noble, Jesus. Jim Ross. JBL. As JBL. Like he's starting off as JBL here. John Cena. This is also pre-WWE champion John Cena. This is when they're on the come up. Kurt Angle, Mark Henry.
Yeah, that Cena he's referring to is not the Cena we know today. That was a different
he's
Cena.
Mixing up his timelines because if he's saying that Abyss would have been available in 2004, this is Dr. of Thugonomics John Cena.
Which was still good.
Still good, but not cemented like he's trying to put it. That wasn't Super Cena.
What he said, my brain doesn't think he thinks Thugonomics. I think he thinks Cena of today's Cena.
Yeah, which is why it wouldn't have made sense. But yeah.
Yeah.
But even that Cena still would have been dope. Cena and Abyss would have been dope even at that time. Kane, again, we already talked about that. Kurt Angle, Mark Henry, Matt Hardy, Matt Morgan, Michael Cole. Fucking, I'm going down the list here. Randy Orton, young Randy Orton, 2004 Randy Orton. Would have been dope. Rey Mysterio, Rhino, Flair in the ring, Flair. Not retired yet, Flair. Rikishi, Rob Van Dam, and Abyss. And I know that shit would have been dope because it was dope in TNA. When Rob Van Dam went to TNA. The Rock's on here, but he wasn't active. Ron Simmons. They wouldn't have put him on one-on-one. Scott Steiner, that would have been trash. Oh, shit, bro. Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon and Abyss. Come on. Shawn Michaels and Abyss. Shelton Benjamin and Abyss. You still there?
I'm listening to you.
Okay. Tajiri.
I'm listening. I'm fucking listening.
Tajiri. Test. Oop, I clicked on the button. Now, I forgot how ripped fucking Test was. I think it was a full-on goddamn beast. Triple H and Abyss. We already talked about Taker. Val Venus. William Regal. Fuck it. I'll throw Ultimo Dragon in there. I don't know why he's on this list, but he's in there. There's a few guys Abyss would have really had some serious programs with here, and I would have loved to have seen that. I get that. See, because after 2004, what Abyss did do in TNA was pretty good, pretty cool. He had a nice run in TNA. I want to say up until about like maybe 09, 08 or 09 or something like that, when TNA was really cooking. And he was doing the Abyss deal and the Joseph Park attorney at law thing. And he was mixing up characters and he was doing different things. He was really clicking. And then he just got really stagnant. Not stale, but there was nothing more for him to do there. And he just stayed committed. I wonder why he went specifically as an agent and didn't try to do anything in the ring. Maybe he was just too beat up. I'm not sure. But I asked the House of O, I asked you folks out there, what would have happened if Abyss would have left TNA and gone to WWE? What do you guys out there think would have happened? Do you think he would have been as successful? You think he would have? I think he would have become an even bigger star, for sure.
Yeah, who knows? And that's why I really like listening to it. It's just like, I don't know, man. I hate when people give fucking advice. Like that shit I fucking hate people who give advice. Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying Abyss feels this way, but if I'm Abyss, I can't live with the idea of what if I did what I thought I should have did, as opposed to like take someone else's fucking advice. Because that would hurt more than failing. Like if I went in there, it wasn't for me, it sucked. Like I know someone was trying to screw me over.
Do you feel like Abyss was talked out of it? Do you think that's what
can't
Jeff
say
was
that
doing?
he feels that way, but from listening to him talk about it, it feels that way. It feels like he kind of like talked, like it was in his ear, especially when it's someone like you look up to or someone you respect or you like. when the advice is negative, like, hey, dude, just so you know, like, listen to what he said. You're going to do great. I think you're awesome. But you need to understand that, like, you're not as good at those guys and you'll never be as good at those guys. And it would be very difficult for you to be as good as those guys. So you'll have a great run.
I don't know if he's saying that he's not as good so much
that's
as
how I take it.
But
when you're comparing me to someone else, saying that they already have giants, to me, you're comparing me to them. Don't do that. Like, I don't like that shit.
I think he's saying, regardless of how good he is, it ain't gonna matter. They got guys already. They're not getting rid of those guys. I don't think he's saying that he's not good or not as good as those guys.
But yes, he's specifically saying that.
No, I think he's saying regardless of whether you're better or not, it don't matter.
Because you're not good enough.
No, because you're just that's just Vince's people. That's those Vince's guys. Vince is not going to pick the best people. He's going to pick the people that he wants to pick.
Which are the best people?
Not always.
Hold on. Say what you want. I'm not saying nobody is perfect. He has not picked the winner every single time. On average, when this guy sees something, he saw something. And whether he made that person or that person had it in them, they just needed the opportunity. And he saw that and gave them the opportunity. Those are all variables we can't measure. What we can measure is that he took his daddy's bus-ass company, who didn't want to do anything, to one of the largest fucking businesses in the world. So we cannot pretend that his people aren't good people. However you look at it, that's fine. So at the end of the day, when you tell me, no matter how good I am, I can't beat them for whatever caveat you want to put on it. It doesn't matter. The message is the same. It doesn't matter what you say. Could he be right? Sure. But you shouldn't be saying that to him. You should be encouraging him to try. If he's the friend you're trying to fucking say he is in what you're saying in this message. Because you're trying to sell to me that you're boys. Mm-hmm. But then you're also telling me that you pretty much told him you could never be the best because you could never be his guy or wherever the fuck it is. It's a negative message. So if he feels that way, I would feel like shit and I would be annoyed that I didn't that I didn't try or be pushed by my friend to do something that could be awesome for my career. That's what I hear and see when I listen to this and read this.
I think he was torn between a rock and a hard place. I think he does legitimately think of him as a friend, but he's also the owner of the fucking company. He doesn't want one of his top draws to just fucking bounce on him.
Then that's your friend. Then you're not his friend.
Well, isn't that what he said about what's his face, Bob Ryder? He said, "Well, you can't serve both masters." So it looks like he chose which master he was going to serve.
He's not your friend then. He's not your friend. And it is what it is. I'm not judging anybody for any of it. But the facts are, don't sell to me that he's your homie and then you fucked him for your own benefit, or at least talked him out of an opportunity to do something spectacular for his life for the betterment of yourself. That's fucked up.
The thing is, though, is I don't entirely think that end sentence was the most important part of the whole thing. When he said, well, it really all depends on what kind of relationship he would have developed with Vince, because let's be honest, that's the measure of success you're going to have. At the time in WWE, you're playing to the audience of one. Doesn't matter who's in the building, doesn't matter who's watching on TV. If you didn't make the guy behind the curtain happy, you don't come back. So
to me that sounds bitter. Like, I hear bitterness
from Jeff.
Like, that's your fucking experience. Don't put that shit on me. Like, what if I may not be thinking about it that way, but you're telling you, like, now I'm absorbing your fucking negative because of an experience you fucking had with somebody else. Who gives a shit? It's irrelevant. The fact that he made you have to be Vince's. What? We don't even know how far. Like, Abyss really cared. Maybe it would have been the time of his life to work with those people. Like, fuck Vince. He could have worked with so many people more than what he had the opportunity to work with.
Yeah, but he's not working with anybody if he doesn't get along with Vince. That's the point. And that's not a Jeff experience. That's an everybody experience. That's why as soon as it stopped being Vince in control, it
was
changed.
Abyss. Okay, I agree with you. Was Abyss Jeff Jarrett?
And what do you mean? Like talent wise?
As a person, was Abyss Jeff Jarrett? Are they two different personalities? Are they kind of the same? Would you say one's more of a dick than the other? Is one more aggressive
is more of
than
a
the
dick
other?
than the other? I'll give you that.
Is one more aggressive than the other?
Yes.
Okay, that's your fucking experience. Not mine. I'm not gonna go back there and be a fucking dickhead.
Jeff is the one that held up Vince McMahon for more money because he didn't want to drop the title to China.
Who's to say that Abyss is going to create that much friction? You can survive back there without pissing him off.
No one's going to say that he's going to go back there and piss people off and be a dick, but at the same time, let's look at the time frame, 2004, right? How many TNA people went to WWE and were successful? None.
Well, probably not a lot.
No, the answer is
are you
none.
saying how many TNA guys were successful or how many went from TNA? Because didn't AJ Styles do it?
Not in 04, he didn't.
Well, I guess
that was way later because of what happened to TNA guys who gave WWE a try. There were a few TNA people who went to WWE and strictly because they were Jeff Jarrett guys, they weren't really given the opportunity and they ran screaming from that place. Now, a lot of them came back later when Vince had softened, and if you notice, they all went through Triple H first to get established into the system, but it ended up working out in the end. The only TNA guy who went straight from TNA to WWE that Vince absolutely fell in love with day one was Styles. Right. And that works in Abyss's favor because they're good friends. If you want to sit there and tell me that Jeff shouldn't put his bullshit on Abyss, I'll agree with you because on the flip side, Abyss's actual friend, AJ Styles, did go to WWE, did get an opportunity to prove himself. He proved himself and became a made man, became WWE champion. So there's two sides to the coin. AJ, I'm sure, would have pushed for Abyss in WWE. As a matter of fact, there's only a handful of times that Abyss has actually been on WWE television, and every single time has been with AJ Styles. Mm-hmm. So there's an element to that, but I don't know if the timing works with the ideology. That all happened later in life, in 2004, in the heat of the TNA striving to be either as good or better than WWE. I'm not so sure he would have gotten a fair opportunity. Now, if I'm Jeff and I know that he's not going to get that fair of an opportunity, I don't know what the deal was with telling him straight up that, yeah, you have a ceiling. Like, yeah, you'll face Taker, you'll do good business. You'll face Kane, you'll do good business. And they'll probably build you up to go against Cena, which obviously, let's all be honest, he would have been fed to Cena in 2004. So, yeah, you'll probably do big business with Cena, boom, boom, and then that'll be it. So instead of telling him that would be it, why don't you just tell him, hey, do your best, do the business that I know you can do. If it works out, great for you. If it doesn't work out, we got a spot for you.
You got a spot for you. Thank you. Spot for you. And that's it. That's it. We're done. Like at that point, like that's what you should have did. What he did was choose himself over his fucking son. That's all I hear. What he
decided to do was, listen, you have a ceiling there. You're not going to go that far, regardless of how good you are. But here, I could always put you back on top.
Yep.